to what the arguments read and what the descriptors say. But I'm going to show you a quick example of logical functions after we go through what they are. If you just follow along with me, you can see it just displays text or values. And this is the one where you have to remember that text can be displayed, but it needs to be in quotation marks. But it can display text or values if certain conditions are met. So if you've taken geometry, maybe this will make a little bit more sense to you, because it's like if this happens, then this happens. And if you haven't taken geometry, well, guess what? That's coming up. Anyway, the first argument sets a condition for comparison. The second argument then determines the value that displays if the logical test is true or greater than or less than or greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, and you'll see the different descriptors as we get there. And then the third argument determines the value that displays if the logical test is false. Both of those need to be in display. So I've set up just a little example here to show you. And let's say that if a student got more than 12 inches of snow, they don't have to come to school today, which would mean you weren't here, and this is just an example, but to show you. So first of all, I need to open up my formula builder, and I need to go find the if function. And there it is in my recently used. Now if I double click on this one, again, read over in this box over here, but it's a logical test of any value or expression that can be evaluated to be true or false, or equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or not equal to. Most of the time for this class we're going to use greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So again, like I said, if a student had more than 12 inches of snow at their house, they wouldn't have to come to school. So Braden, he lives way out in the country, and let's say he had more than 12 inches of snow at his house. So I'm going to say if the value of, in this case, it would be cell B2, is greater than, I don't want equal to, if it's greater than 12 inches, then yay, no school. Otherwise, see you at school. If I hit enter, remember I have an error, because if you look at this formula, you'll notice quotation mark, quotation mark. And for some reason, it's a little flaw in the system, but it does not show a quotation mark. And I can quickly see where my error is. It's in the third argument down. So all I have to do is go change this, put in a quotation mark at the beginning, and at the end of this, a quotation mark, hit enter, and it displays. Now, because I know that Excel helps me out and I can fill down, I can simply copy this formula down, and all of these are relative cell references, because you'll notice it changes to B3, the next one changes to B4, the next one changes to B5, and so on. So it looks like Brandon and Ethan, you two are lucky because you live out in the country and you had more than 12 inches of snow, so you wouldn't have to be at school. The rest of you, I'll see you at school. That is just one example, and you're going to do multiple examples for this class. Many of them are going to relate to grades, scoring on things. There's a golf example. You can see for this first one that you're going to do here in class is going to be optic eye or optical eye, and it's to determine if you have more than a set amount of an order, then you don't pay shipping. So I suppose it's kind of what Amazon sets up, and you'll see some real life examples, and we'll talk more about real life examples when I'm back on Tuesday. But the if function, as long as you remember to read from top to bottom over here in your formula builder, it's really going to make much more sense to you, and I hope you do follow that if you have any questions. So let's go back and we'll take a look. Logical functions, you're going to put this into practice. You're going to do optical, and it's just a short little thing. You can see you're putting in one formula, you're filling it down, you're saving that file. The next thing we're going to talk about is autofilter and autofilter arrows, and that's just what you covered in lesson J, so this really should be a review. But you are sorting some things by top 10, you are sorting some things by it looks like top 10, and then football and top 15th percentile are the only two. The next item we're going to talk about is hiding columns and rows, And again, like I said, I don't use this one much, but it is a feature that is available. And basically, hiding just means it temporarily removes a column or row from the screen. Now, you do know that it's hidden because the numbering sequence doesn't cover up each other. Literally, the numbering sequence is gone. So to do that, to hide a selected row or column, you're going to select either row or column on the Format menu, then click Hide on the submenu. And then to redisplay it, basically you're going to do that in reverse. So let's say I want to hide Brandon and Brady because I don't want it to look like lots of people don't have to, or lots of people have to go to school. So I'm going to go to, again, Format on my menu, and I'm going to go to Rows, and I'm going to tell it to hide those two rows. Now notice my numbering 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. Because you're all smart, you would be like, oh, hey, there's rows hidden. But to the normal person, they're not going to notice that those rows aren't hidden because notice it scrolls just like any one before. It's not like a frozen row or frozen column by any means. So then again, to unhide those, I have my cursor positioned there. I go to Format, Row, and Unhide. And maybe I need to actually select my area. Go to Format, Row, Unhide. There we go. I think maybe I clicked Hide the first time. This, like I said, is not a feature I use very often, but if I need to shorten things up or I want to see one compared to the other and I don't want to set a freeze in there, I can go ahead and just hide those rows. It especially works if I have a bunch of rows of information or if I have a bunch of columns of information that I want to show one next to the others. It works quite handy. Also works when you're using charts, but that's not until Unit K. And so you're going to go through the practice there. Like I said, drawing tools, those are exactly the same thing that you did in Word, only in Excel, still the second thing over. The object palette even looks the same as Word. You can insert all of those exact same things. You can do all the same formatting items. Let's say I insert this 12-point star into my document. I'm going to drag it over so it would be on one page. Then notice I have all the exact same features that appeared in Word in my formatting palette because this is selected. And so I can go quickly change the color of this. I could add different sizes to it. I could rotate it, but that wouldn't matter because it's a 12-point star. I could change the color on it if I wanted to, just like I did before. I could change a line color. Maybe I want to make this for some reason yellow around the outside, and I want to make it a thicker line because who wants a skinny little line? We'll make it stand out so you can see what it looks like, and so I could put that on there. Again, drawing tools are very much like what you could do in Word, and almost all of you had no troubles with that, so I don't anticipate any troubles drawing it in here. In fact, it's maybe is easier to draw in here because you do have your cells, and so you have kind of grid lines to guide you where you want to put it, and that makes it a little bit easier. Adding a picture is much the same way as what you did in Word. In fact, you'll still go into Insert menu and you'll go into Picture instead of Clip Art, or you can also insert Clip Art as well. Now, this one does have you change some different colors and change the saturation on them. It's no different than what you did in Word, but basically you're going to make this rose in here appear a lighter color. So instead of being bright red, it's going to be like a light pinkish color because you're going to change the transparency, and you can see right there, change the transparent or set the transparent color button. So you're going to be making those changes. Worksheets in a workbook. Now we talked about this on the very first day of Excel. Whether some of you remember it or not, I'm not sure. But a workbook is a collection of worksheets, and the worksheets are all identified by those sheet tabs at the bottom. Now as far as sheet tabs, you can rename them by either clicking on the sheet tab and then just retyping. So I could just name this Snow Days. Or when I add a new one, I could right click on it and I could tell it to rename. I could also go back to my Snow Days sheet. Oops, if I'd stay on that, I could go back to my Snow Days sheet and I could just rename it. And then it gives me the option to rename. So either way that works. Pretty simple. The last concept we're going to talk about is consolidating workbook data. And this becomes really important when you have multiple sheets in a workbook. So you're wondering how I keep track of your reading grades, and I'm keeping track of how many books everybody has read throughout the year. And I use this 3D or three-dimensional reference to keep track of what books you've read because I can consolidate them all together. And I'll try to remember to show you an example of that on Tuesday, but I don't want this screencast to get too long. So basically what you're doing when you consolidate workbook data is you are creating a link from one worksheet to another. And that link has a fancy exclamation point in it. So when you read these, you're reading that something from sheet 4, cell D9, is inserted into whatever your active cell is. So let me just go ahead and show you here. Let's say I have some numbers put in here. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you to see. Let's say I have put in the number 34, the number 35, the number 36, the number 37. And I want the total of all those. So the easy way to do that is just to go up to my auto sum and give me the sum of those numbers. Let's say though I want this amount, which is in A5. I'm going to want that on my snow days sheet for whatever reason. So I want it, and I want to put it down here in cell C11 because I feel like C11 today. So all I'm going to do is first tell Excel that I want to start a formula, and you do so by hitting the equal sign. And then I'm going to carefully go click down on sheet 2. I'm going to go select the cell I want, which in this case is A5. Notice what happened in my formula bar. It told me it's going to make a three-dimensional reference to sheet 2, cell A5. If I hit enter, it takes me back to sheet 1 and it gives me that reference. Notice again my formula bar says it's sheet 2, cell A5. So as long as you're not a happy clicker, you'll be just fine doing this sort of an assignment. Now what if I wanted to go ahead and add some more information? Let's say I want to add the number 1111 and I want to link that to my other items. Let me just go pick another cell here. I'll go to A15. I'm going to type equals, and maybe I want to take the cell information from A2, and then I'll type the plus, then I'll go to sheet 3, and I'll take the information from there. Notice it just added it as a simple formula. Instead of using just a cell to reference, well, it has the sheet number and the cell. Now if I would go back and change these sheet numbers later, it's going to update that reference as well, so it recognizes that. Okay, so I'm not going to click anywhere else. I'm going to hit enter, and it takes me to this. Notice it references cell A2 on sheet 2 and cell A1 on sheet 3. So it adds those two together for me. That is a very, very handy feature that you will use. So back to what this talks about. You can add these. You could do an auto sum, or you could sum a range of cells on a sheet. And you're going to be doing this in practice. And then you're also going to get to practice it some more for bell ringers, and you'll get to practice it a little bit more on the actual assignment sheet itself. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me a text, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Good luck and happy working.